Welcome to the Castaway Consultants Podcast.
Where we, the three co-hosts, who've never played the game, judge Survivor contestants on a game we've never played from the safety of our own home. I'm your host, Derek Kubicek, joined by co-hosts Ryan Stacy and Josh Wessler, and today we're going to be going over the Borneo post-merge.
Just to introduce ourselves very briefly, this is Ryan, and I'm a giant super fan of the game, and I literally everything. This is my third time rewatching the show.
This is Josh. I would consider myself a big fan of the show. Have not watched every single season, but have watched actually a majority of the seasons. And even though I have watched this season in the past, I am not watching every single episode. I'm only watching the premiere, the merge episode, and the finale. And everything in between, we're kind of using it as a good gauge to see how memorable the season is.
And then this is Derek. I'm kind of the virgin Virgil going through a lot of these earlier seasons for the first time. Season 1 was an exception for me. I had seen it a couple years ago, but it'd been a long time, and starting with Season 2 up through Season 26, haven't seen it. In terms of my Survivor experience thus far, I consider myself to be kind of one step shy of your, if there's such thing as a casual super fan, but I haven't missed an episode following Season 27, and I'd like to think I'm very well aware of how Survivor is played and what it takes to win. But that being said, I want to make sure that I've seen this entire anthology from beginning to end, and this is a really great opportunity for me to do that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a quick refresher of the cast that we have left. On the Pagong tribe, we have Greg Buis, Jenna Lewis, Jervis Peterson, Colleen Haskell, and Gretchen Cordy. And then left standing for Tagi, we have Sean Kniff, Rudy Bosch, Susan Hawk, Kelly Wigglesworth, and Richard Hatch. We're going to start this off by giving a recommendation of whether or not this is a must-watch Survivor. And I think we're all in agreement that the post-merge Borneo is absolutely must-watch Survivor. Ryan?
100%. This is some more Survivor 101. In the first episode, we got basic Survivor 101 for the pre-merge. But this is Survivor 101 for the post-merge, which is an entirely different beast. And, in my opinion, a harder game to play.
Yeah, I agree.
So with that said, if you're so inclined, take off now and watch the post-merge. Watch the pre-merge and the post-merge. Watch all of Borneo. But that being said, we are going to be spoiling the entire post-merge. And again, we watch it so you don't have to. This is must-watch Survivor. So with that, let's jump right into episode 7, titled The Merger. Ryan, why don't you take this away?
All right, so starting with the merge episode of Survivor Borneo, the first thing we really see is one person from each tribe, Sean and Jenna. They're acting as ambassadors, and they're going to basically visit each tribe, decide which tribe they're going to end up living at. And they have this big negotiation out on the sandbar that is clearly just a romantic setup by production. They want them to bang.
You can push your beds together if you want.
Yeah, it's so blatantly obvious and kind of cringy. They got the two young hotties from each tribe to go do this, and it's just, it's kind of embarrassing for production, I think.
I respect the move, though.
Hey, you need it to be a hit.
Yep.
This is season 1.
Well, and that's the thing is, I think we mentioned it a few different times in our first episode of this podcast, but not only do the players not know what's going to happen in this show at all, but neither do the producers. They have a general idea, but why not try everything,
Sure.
see what happens? Try getting people to just go off on their own, do their own thing, try getting alliances together, try banging on an island. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what Survivor will be known for the most.
If they managed to get a Survivor baby out of this, that would have been huge.
Fast forward 16 years and you get them to play with their parents.
Oh my god.
Blood versus Water 3.
That'd be amazing TV. I'd be here for that.
But like you said, producers, they're just flinging stuff at the wall. Cool with it. In general, the other members of the tribes are just kind of sitting, waiting. Tagi basically knows that they're going to end up at their beach.
Tagi's way better than Pagong. It's not close.
Yeah, they're so much more organized. They have a bigger shelter. They didn't have to move their shelter later on.
They have fish.
Yeah, and they're organized.
Yep.
They're just kind of waiting to hear what they already know. And finally, we get Jenna and Sean to basically bring all of Pagong over.
But here's the thing. Here's the bad move. They got to go out and have this feast on this sandbar, and they proceed to tell Pagong all about it. Like, oh yeah, we got to eat this, and we got to eat this, and we got to eat these. No one wants to hear that. Don't say it. All you're going to do is piss people off. Just say, yeah, it was a fun time. It was good. And leave it at that. Everybody knows it was a fun time. Everybody knows it was good. Acknowledge that and move on.
And I think that's a pretty standard thing to know, fast forwarding how many years. Season 1, that's not really something that since you're not thinking of everything at all times of the game, which you should be.
You should be.
Put people into that situation now. People still make this mistake.
For sure.
I'm not saying that people don't, but everyone is more aware of it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's about reading the room. This is the last thing that I think we need to say, but just know that they were irritated that it took you so long to make this decision, and just come back and say, production made us camp out on the sandbar. They thought it would be this really cool shot. We knew it was Tagi immediately. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, they kept us out there. Sorry.
But now we jump right into what these merge dynamics are going to feel like for the rest of the season, really. We have Sean and we have Gretchen. They are morally opposed to these alliances. And obviously, these are two different players from each of these different beaches originally. But that doesn't mean that everyone else on these former tribes are feeling this way.
It's true. And Sean and Gretchen, it's fine if you're morally opposed to alliances. Enjoy not being in the game.
Absolutely. And then the other kind of face-off in this episode is between Greg and Richard. They kind of identify each other as threats immediately. This is my strategic threat. This is my competition.
Yep.
The only difference being Richard has
an alliance and has prepared himself for the merge. Greg has not.
Yeah, Richard has been thinking about this since before he got on the island.
If nobody had formed an alliances and it was strictly individual the whole way through, I think my money's on Greg. But Richard beat him.
That's not the way it works.
Yep. And Richard basically goes on to say, I want Greg out of here. However, we get to the immunity challenge, and this is really funny. It's a breath-holding competition, and Greg is just waltzing his way through this. He wins it pretty handily. It was kind of a close race against Sean at the end. But in terms of holding his breath, he didn't need to go that hard, but he did.
Well, here's the funniest part to me, is the holding your breath aspect of the challenge was in two waves. First, he was just holding your breath underwater, and Jervis wins that one of all people.
If you can't swim, you might as well be able to hold your breath a long time.
But then for the actual swimming portion of the challenge, Jervis isn't even in it. He just gives up instantly.
But yeah, Greg wins immunity here, and that throws a wrench into Richard and the entire Alliance's plan. And Ryan, you were talking to me about this earlier, but you think that this is arguably the most important tribal council in the history of Survivor. So why don't you take us through a quick recap of what happens, but then jump right into why this is so important.
So 7 of the 10 castaways here are going to receive votes. Obviously, Greg can't. Only 9 people are eligible. 7 people get votes. That has never happened again, and it won't. I think the most that has happened since is 4 people on one tribal council have received votes. 7. This is insane.
And if it actually would ever happen again, it would be manufactured.
Yeah, totally.
There's no way that this happens organically.
What happens here is the Tagi 4, Richard, Rudy, Kelly, and Sue, they vote for Gretchen. Everybody else votes for somebody else. It's insanity. Greg ends up voting for Jenna because she's annoying. Gretchen votes for Rudy because she doesn't want to live with him. Colleen votes for Richard because he's overconfident. Jenna votes for Jervis for his sexist cow comment from the previous episode. Moo. Sean is starting his alphabet strategy with Colleen, and he's going to vote for every single person in order alphabetically. Colleen is first in the alphabet. We'll have plenty to say about this. And Jervis votes for Greg by accident because he forgot Greg has immunity, so he has to switch it to Sue.
That's right. Okay. I was wondering why that was... Because it was crossed out on his ballot, right?
Yep.
Because did they ever bring that up?
Nope.
Okay, I was kind of confused why it was crossed out, and then I never kind of put 2 and 2 together and was like, oh yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Greg has immunity.
Yep. So good job, Jervis.
And this just shows the dichotomy in playing styles between Tagi and Pagong. I mean, when you have Pagong voting for Pagong members, even though they agreed not to vote out Pagong members until Tagi was gone, they didn't have a formal alliance, but they talked about having a really loose-knit alliance or loose-knit construct. They completely fell apart here.
I think it's even more past that, because you can have a general strategy for a tribe and then kind of turn around and just go straight on past that and vote for your own members. That happens. Mm-hmm. I think what's even more important is that this is showing that literally no one is communicating on that tribe. Instead of just going back on their own words. No, zero communication.
Complete breakdown of communication. And this is kind of the end of innocence for Survivor. Up to this point, it's been all fun and games, especially for Pagong. And now they've realized, oh, I take it back. They don't even realize it. We realize it. They're screwed. It's not quite over for them, but Tagi came with a plan and they executed perfectly, and they took out Gretchen, who's probably the biggest threat besides Greg. It's a brilliant move. It's an amazing moment. It's me. It's so good, and it just blows my mind that nobody in Pagong or even Sean had a clue on what to do here and couldn't communicate at all.
That is actually an image that sticks in my mind as I've been going through season 1, is Gretchen sitting there. She's on the edge of her seat, leaning forward, hands on her face. It's me. Wow. I can't believe this just happened.
So we can obviously see this from like a viewer's standpoint, and everyone as they're watching this for the first time in 2000 can see it. But do the players actually playing the game realize that that's how the vote went down?
No. They're going to talk about this in the next episode, and it doesn't seem like anybody's really sure that's what happened.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into it soon, but Greg is saying if it happens one more time, we know the game is afoot. I mean,
I thought Sean said that.
It's Greg.
Okay.
Greg was talking to Colleen and them about it.
Okay.
I think they were talking to Sean about it because Sean is generally clueless in terms of what his own tribe's alliance is doing.
Yes.
But Greg was saying if it happens one more time, then we know. Well,
guess what? If that's the case, it's too late to do anything about it at that point.
Because now you don't have the numbers.
So let's talk about what everybody should have done here. Obviously, the Tagi 4 played this right. Who should the others have voted for?
I have no idea.
Anyone.
Yeah,
anyone.
Honestly, anyone on. Actually, I won't even say anyone on Tagi. You could all vote for someone on Pagong, and I would have been okay with this, as long as you all vote together, because that would give me some sort of confidence that you will be okay going forward.
They did so much wrong. It should have been Richard. He should have mobilized his people to go against the strategic threat that he recognized in Richard. He should have done it.
Yep.
And they are evenly matched because we know that Gretchen didn't want an alliance, and we know that Sean didn't want an alliance. That leaves 4v4.
Yep.
That means that you can force a tie and try and do something. They needed to do something. I don't care if it's Richard. They needed to do something. That was step one. They just did too much wrong. I have nothing else.
Yeah. Pagong obviously all played this wrong. Sean played this wrong because he's fifth in Tagi. So none of these people are winning this game. The Tagi 4 have the game right now. So these 6 have to do something to flip it. Take your pick of whatever Tagi you want. I'd say Richard, but any of them is a better move than what they did.
Yeah.
They literally played this as worse as they possibly could have.
Yes.
It's insane. So we have a question, Derek, you and I have to answer. This is kind of a fun game I want to play throughout. Our original winner pick, even though we know who wins the season, but from the perspective of, let's say we're watching this for the first time, our initial winner pick was Gretchen. She's gone now. Where we're at, who's your new winner pick?
It's got to be Richard.
Yeah, I agree.
It has to be. I mean, he's the only one who seems to be playing the game. He has the alliance on his side. He's the provider around camp. He really has almost everything going for him. I mean, you could make some maybe dark horse picks with Greg or Sue at this point.
Sure.
But I mean, if you're just stacking it up beat for beat, it's got to be Richard.
Absolutely, I agree.
So yeah, with that, let's get into best player. Ryan, go ahead.
Speaking of which, it's Richard Hatch.
Yeah.
When Jenna came to visit his beach at the beginning of the episode, he was probing her for information and getting some stuff out of her. And he managed to get the Tagi 4 to stick together in the face of a 6-person opposition that couldn't pull itself together, but he still got his 4. And that was enough to carry the day.
And then worst player, I'm actually going to have to give it to Greg. He is more capable than this.
No.
He is smarter. He is strategic. He's thinking about it, and he, having that capability, let the Tagi Alliance walk all over him, and he lost the numbers. I think that even though Greg wins immunity, he loses the numbers. He could have done more. He saw the threat in Richard, and he did nothing. He did not act. He understands the game. It's Greg.
No, it's Sean. Sean, because he's morally opposed to alliances. Get the hell out of this. Gretchen was as well, but she's ineligible because you can't win worst player of the episode if you go home. He was annoying the Pagong people by talking about food. He came off as extremely naive and stupid at Tribal Council and for starting his alphabet strategy, which is just the worst.
I think I would agree with that.
Either way, we move on. Gretchen is out. The moral leader of Pagong is gone.
Yep.
Episode 8, Thy Name is Duplicity. Really, the central theme of this episode is there an alliance?
Yes.
No, I wouldn't say that there's an alliance. We generally try to come to some kind of consensus, but
Always assume there's an alliance. Worst case scenario, there's an alliance.
best case scenario, there's not an alliance?
That was random chance. The best case scenario, that was random chance. Great. I don't live my life based on random chance. Assume there's an alliance and do something about it.
In general, Pagong and Sean, they're just, what happened with this Gretchen vote? We don't get it.
And I gotta give props to Tagi. Richard, Sue, Kelly, and Rudy must have just sold it like, oh yeah, that's weird. She was dangerous or something. She was a threat. And we all just thought that way. There's no alliance. Like, props to them. That's what they must have sold this very well.
Yeah. and we're going to see some pullback here, at least from Jenna, and who was, it surprised me that she was the one trying to pull together a women's alliance. We know that this becomes a very usable, very viable strategy in the future.
A very terrifying strategy.
A very terrifying strategy in the future. And Jenna is trying to initiate a women's alliance.
And sometimes counter strategy.
Yeah.
Using women's alliances as a reason to vote out
Yeah.
some women.
Just say, like, we got to
In the
vote out
future.
that girl because they might form a women's alliance. It's a great way to throw somebody under the bus.
Ultimately, nothing is going to come of this. Another thing that really goes on here is realizing who Greg is. I mean, even Pagong, who have just kind of seen the goofy Greg, coconut phone Greg, they're like, this guy's kind of sneaky.
Oh, yeah. He's flirting with Rich. Straight up, just throwing it out there. You know, trying to get Rich to bite a little bit. Richard sees right through it, and he respects the move, but he's not going to fall for it. He wants Greg out now.
And that's how I know that Rich is such a good player. He takes it in the perfect way. Like you said, he respects the move.
Yep.
And then he acts on it and votes him out. Or wants to vote him out.
I love Richard Hatch. I love the way he sees the game. And this is why right here.
Absolutely. Again, we just have more Greg and Richard recognizing that they're the two heavy hitters here.
Yep.
And like you guys said, Richard is acting on it. But let's go on to the reward challenge here. Ryan, talk about what happens with Jenna.
Okay, so everybody gets a VHS tape from home.
VHS.
VHS back in 2000.
Be kind, rewind.
Be kind, rewind, yes. Unfortunately, Jenna did not get a tape. I guess her mom did not send it out in time, so there's no tape for Jenna. And it's a heartbreaking moment. I remember watching an interview with Jeff Probst about this moment, and he was like, I felt so bad for her, but at the same time, like, this is good TV. And he's right. This is amazing TV. It's heartbreaking, because Jenna's pretty likable, even if she's a little annoying. She seems like a sweet lady, and this just sucks.
Yeah, and just like I had mentioned Sonia playing the ukulele on episode 1, we get a very human moment where everyone is off watching Greg, who won the challenge. They're off watching him and his sister's video, incest, something, insert joke here, I guess.
I thought about incest or something. I don't know. Rudy.
But Jenna's not with the group. She's off just shooting arrows at the target.
She can't watch. It hurts too much.
She can't watch, and she knows that she's better than how she performed. It's a great moment.
Yep.
So either way, we're going to skip on to the immunity challenge here, where we have Jervis just out of nowhere. I don't want to call him a non-factor because he's such a huge developer in the social game, but just out of nowhere, just kind of wins immunity. Kelly's starting to have some second thoughts about the alliance. Pagong talks about forming a counter alliance, but again, we said it earlier, Greg is like, if it happens one more time, maybe we'll do something about it.
Here's the thing with this. I suspect what happened is because Colleen, Jervis, and Greg, they're all going to vote for Jenna here, which makes no goddamn sense. The only thing that would make some sense is Jenna must have been like, no, I'm going to try and sneak in with Toggy, and I'm out, guys. And so that leaves Colin, Jervis, and Greg up Schitt's Creek without a paddle, so they just vote for Jenna. It's the only thing that makes any sense.
Even then, I think someone who's half committed to your team is better than actually a group of people who are no committed. Either way, ends up to be fruitless. This is an episode where we have Jeff at Tribal Council badgering the Alliance about whether or not they're in an alliance.
He has a question that's kind of alluding to the existence of an alliance, and Richard just like perfectly dodges it, goes, nope, not going to answer that. It's really, this is like the first real episode, I think, that shows us that Tribal Council is kind of an art. You know, you have to play it a certain way. You have to answer the question, but you don't have to answer it in a way that hurts your own game, but you can do that.
Yeah, and this is actually a time to interject for those more casual people who might be listening. Tribal Council isn't as quick as we see it on television. No. Jeff sometimes goes on and asks questions for half an hour, or longer to try and get the information that he thinks is necessary to edit a good Tribal Council.
And if you don't give him what he wants, he'll swear at you, and you give me what I want, yada yada yada, all up and down the board.
So it's not limited to what we see here. We don't really know what went down with season 1, but we know in more current seasons, it's certainly not everything that we get to see.
Sure.
I'd be surprised if Tribal went on for too long of a time in season 1.
So Richard expertly dodges the question, but then outright, Jeff asks Sue and Kelly, is there an alliance? Sue straight up lies to Jeff.
Well,
Nope.
No. I say that sometimes people come up with general reasons or feelings for how they vote. It wasn't a very good lie.
Sue's was pretty good. Kelly's was terrible.
Neither of them were convincing.
Do I have to answer that?
So I did not watch this episode.
No.
I watched, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, I watched the premiere, the merge episode, and the finale. This is the episode after the merge. I definitely remember the whole Jenna videotape thing. Yes, very heartbreaking, all that stuff. But I don't remember this like infamous tribal or this question. Now, after you are talking about it, yes, I remember it. But it's not something that like completely jumped out at me, like just kind of like thinking about post-merge actions.
And Ryan gave me a heads up on this happening. I was expecting Jeff to be forward on his chair. Is there an alliance? And that's not what happened. Nope. It's just how he was so direct at Sue and Rich and Kelly. Sue, is there an alliance? It's very nonchalant.
Yep.
It's just in retrospect, Jeff today would never in a million years ask that.
Absolutely not.
He doesn't want to give information. He wants them to figure it out, and he wants explosions at Tribal, which in this way he has definitely grown as a host.
Yep. This is too far, in my opinion.
Absolutely. It's interfering with the game.
Yeah. The goal is to pull information and not to push it.
Now, granted, I don't think it has a major effect on the game because, Richard, Sue, and Kelly deflect enough. But yeah, don't do this, Jeff. And he stopped. He doesn't do this again.
But in general, Ryan, quick recap on how this Tribal goes down.
So we have the 3 votes for Jenna. Everybody else votes for Greg as Sean continues his alphabet strategy. Jervis would have been next. He won immunity. That means Greg is next. Jervis gets skipped. Greg, I think it's pretty obvious. Greg was the correct person to vote off here.
Absolutely.
Easy, the biggest threat.
No question.
So that's 4 people making the right move. We got another 5. What were Pagong and Sean doing? The wrong thing. That's what they were doing.
Well, Sean inadvertently did the right thing. It's no to his credit. Like, if you're chalking up points on a chalkboard, this is throwing up a Hail Mary from half court after being invisible all game. They're using him. Mm-hmm. They're piggybacking off of him, and they're like, wow, this could not have worked out any better for us. Sean, no, you need to be intentional. This random stuff has got to stop.
Well, it's going to be the same conversation basically this entire time.
Yep.
Starting at last episode, this episode, next one, it's all going to kind of be the same for this group of people.
And it's not going to be as big of a factor here because Greg is such the obvious target, whereas next time it's Jenna, who's not an obvious target. So that's why that one is so much more famous, J for Jenna. But, yeah, no, it's the same issue here. Honestly, it's the same thing as last time, though. Sean needs to team up with Pagong, and they need to take out Richard.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, from a modern Survivor perspective, you need to be thinking, where am I on Tagi? If you're Sue, or if you're Kelly, Kelly's the one who's thinking, second thoughts. If you're Kelly and you're Sean, you need to be thinking about flipping over to Pagong at this point. Now, that's season 15 Survivor, yeah. I'm assuming. That's season 30 Survivor for me.
And at this point, Kelly's fine. She's not at the bottom 4 yet. She's actually probably in the top 2.
But she's already wishy-washy. Like, if you're going to make a move, do it while you have the numbers. But anyway, best player of the episode?
Best player of the episode, Suhawk, for pretending to join the Women's Alliance with Jenna, for straight up lying to Jeff at Tribal Council and getting Greg out.
Yeah, I don't have anything to contend with that. I mean, Richard is just playing pretty standard Richard game at this point. Nothing exemplary, and he didn't really advance his position at all in this episode.
Yep. I think Sue did. And worst player of the episode is Colleen. Basically, she says straight up she won't do whatever it takes to win.
Then why are you here?
And voting for Jenna. That's just terrible.
I got no other words on this one.
Jervis at least won immunity, so that leaves Colleen.
Yeah.
Because Greg can't win it.
Yep. Well, with that, we're moving on to episode 9, Old and New Bonds. Now, this is going to jump right back into what we were just talking about with Kelly feeling guilty about joining an alliance, which, quick side note on this, that's so stupid. Mm-hmm. Did they just go out and try and find all of the most high character people that they could and then just drop Richard in the middle? Because, I mean, I know that other people were willing to be scheming, but no one seems to be taking it nearly as seriously. And then I will actually put Richard at the top of this scheming poll, and then Sue.
Well, in this case, I mean, this comes into play later, and I won't talk too much about it just because we're going to get to it in the finale, but she basically says, yeah, even though this is kind of a scheming way of playing, like, I respect it, to Rich.
She gets to be the hammer because she's not afraid to level the playing field and be blunt, and that way Richard doesn't have to do it. Mm-hmm. Perfect right hand for Richard. But everyone else, come on. If you're not here to win the million by doing whatever you can, if they didn't give you a rule book saying no alliances are allowed, I don't understand this mentality.
No, and that might be a little just mixed because it was the first season.
Yeah,
like they don't know what this game is. It's more, a lot of them could have actually been thinking like, yeah, like it's do whatever you can, but that do whatever you can is like, oh, I just need to like survive or whatever and just make it to the end, and not in a schemey type of way.
Nobody is ever going to feel guilty about joining an alliance again in Survivor. This is a season 1 thing, and that is it. This is gone by season 2.
Yeah, and Richard, again, he kind of touches on the fact that he's the only one really playing Survivor right now. I mean, he says they're not keeping him because he's being a provider. They're keeping him because he's not letting them vote for him, because he's got tabs on everyone. He has got his I's dotted and his T's crossed. And, I mean, he's right. He'll see a little pushback here, but he's right.
Yep, it's true.
He's right. And now his next moment in this episode, not so great, Ryan.
Yeah, Richard throws a little bit of a tantrum because he catches some fish, Rudy overcooks it, and Richard's kind of like a whiny little baby about it.
I get it. If you're fishing and you're out there for a couple hours and someone burns it, I'd be a little sour too, but remember that the fish isn't $1 million.
And yeah, Rudy's your alliance member too.
That pretty much just plays into like Rich being maybe a little bit too comfortable now.
Yeah. His social game isn't the best. You don't do this.
Richard's no game bot.
Richard is not a game bot, no.
And yeah, his social game, not great. I mean, we'll see this later on in the post-merge as well, that he doesn't care about these people as people. And we've seen players lose at Final Tribal Council because they have no social game.
Yep.
We have Colleen winning reward and picks Jenna to join her.
And this is important because this is the first time we ever get to pick somebody to go and reward. From this point on, I don't think reward challenges are worth winning unless it's like a team where like you 3 are on the orange team and you 3 are on the purple team. Yeah, then win it, because if you throw that, everybody will hate your guts. But if it is an individual reward challenge, I'm a big proponent of throwing them, especially the family visit, which we'll get to at another time. No good can come from this, really. Unless you're at the very bottom of the alliance and are like you're next to go, fine. But if you're in a power position at all, don't go. Don't win this, because you're gonna have to pick people. People are going to be mad. Don't win reward challenges.
And now, to be fair, I don't remember early Survivor, but more modern Survivor, once you start to get a little bit later, even if you don't win, you end up having like a 50-50 shot of still going on the reward.
You want to be the person who gets picked to go with, usually. Ideally, what you really want, best case scenario, Derek, let's say you and I are playing Survivor and we're in a tight alliance. You and I we got a final 2 deal.
Oh, we've talked about this a ton.
One of us goes on the reward. The other one of us does not. We control everything.
Yes, Ryan, if we're ever on Survivor and I win reward, I'm not picking you,
I'm not picking you.
Good, because I want to be making a loser's alliance back at camp while you make a winner's alliance off on the reward.
Exactly.
Yeah, this would never end up working.
This would totally end up working.
No, I feel like people would be smart enough to see straight through you guys.
No, here's the thing. All it is doing is preventing the spread of new information that we're not aware of. Even if it's like 3v3, right? And you know there are 2 other people on this reward and not on this reward that we can't control, right? At least we know that there were conversations that were had and what that outlay looks like when it's all said and done. They don't have to believe it. It just means we are not in the dark on it.
Yep.
Now, there are situations where it's like, okay, if you are the 2 front runners and you are public enemy number 1, there is no threat management at this point. Now, I think this is a rare situation. I think it's hard. Fine. Take them on the reward. Have an adventure while you can and keep fighting to the end.
Sure. There's exceptions to the rules.
But in general, try and spread the seed as far as you can.
Yep.
Colleen picking Jenna, I don't really fault anyone for this.
I think everybody should pick Jenna almost because she didn't get her tape from home. Just take Jenna.
Yeah.
Nobody can be mad at that pick.
Yeah.
And you could just say that. She didn't get a tape from home. I'm going to take Jenna. Totally acceptable pick.
It's Richard's birthday. He doesn't get to go on the reward. But you know how he chooses to celebrate? In his birthday suit.
Hell yeah.
His plan is to spend the whole day naked. This is another flaw in Richard's social game.
And in fairness, he does address this at the reunion show a little bit. He said, as soon as I realized some people were uncomfortable with it, I put my clothes back on. You know, if you were not in such a power position, this might have put you in a precarious position.
Yeah, this could piss people off. Just don't do stuff like this.
Yeah.
And it might come in play later.
Yeah.
Not this season.
But this will happen in a later season.
Which tells me that he doesn't learn.
Moving on.
Anyway, Rudy wins immunity. He wasn't in danger. It doesn't really matter. All that matters is that it wasn't Pagong member. Sean continues with his alphabet strategy.
And he is open about this. He's telling everybody.
Jeff is asking him at Tribal.
Yep.
Which
Why?
the one thing that is worse than having a strategy as stupid as an alphabet strategy
telling
is
everybody.
to be public about it so that people can predict what you're going to do.
Yep. You don't want to be predictable. And this is so stupid. And he's trying to justify it to everybody. Everybody's just like, no, okay, this is dumb. Just stop. And Colleen is like, I'm going to change my name to Zelda. Or Colleen and Jenna are like, yeah, we're Zelda and Xena now. So you can't vote for, or something like that.
But, I mean, like you mentioned earlier, J for Jenna.
Yep.
Jenna's going to go home here on a 4-3 vote.
Yep. Because what's happening is Kelly is being swayed by Pagong. She loves Jenna. She loves Colleen. She likes Jervis. She doesn't love the Toggy people so much anymore.
Yeah.
So she's starting to get swayed. She doesn't want to be in this alliance. She doesn't want to have to vote out Jenna. This is a huge opportunity for Pagong. Sean's going to keep doing his alphabet strategy, and Toggy's going to lump right on in a 4-3-1 vote. Jenna's going to go home.
So who is the one again?
Sean. Kelly threw one vote on Sean.
Kelly basically...
I thought that you were saying that Kelly was, like, jumping on...
Well, we'll get into that. Kelly backs out. She's just like, I'm just going to throw my vote on Sean.
Basically, I'm not in the alliance, but I'm not with them either.
Sean's voting for Jenna. Toggy dumps their 3 on Jenna as well. The 3 Pagong members are going to vote for Richard, and Kelly's just going to vote for Sean.
So, I mean, when you're looking at mistakes, that could be your $1 million mistake. Along with maybe a couple other $1 million mistakes. I mean, okay.
Kelly makes at least $2 million mistakes this season, and this is one of them.
Yeah.
I think you could almost make an argument that, yeah, Rich has been the best player, but this could essentially be like Kelly's game to lose.
Honestly, for Kelly, I don't think she should flip. I think she sticks with Toggy, because if she goes to the end with Sue or Sean, she wins. If they can get to the final 5, knock out Richard and Rudy, Kelly's going to win. If she can get to the final 2, which she will. She's going to win that last challenge, let's be honest. Against Sue and Sean, she'll win. Kelly should not flip. Honestly, she needs to suck it up and just double down on this alliance thing. She's going to be the most liked member of the Toggy group, besides maybe Rudy. She'll win. She goes with Pagong, she'll probably lose, honestly, because she's up against Colleen and Jenna and Jervis. 2 of those people are super likable. Jenna,
True.
Not as much, but still.
And I guess you have to keep in mind in a season where they're probably going to vote more at, like, the social game versus strategy. Yeah, so you basically just have to commit.
You got to commit. You can't be
the worst thing that you can do is just stay in the middle.
Yep.
Which is what she did.
Because everybody's going to see through exactly what she's doing.
Yeah.
One more thing that they start talking about after this episode with Kelly backing out of the alliance is she managing the jury.
Mm-hmm.
She's trying to prevent hurt feelings, and Sue is particularly irritated about this. She's like, own your game, honey.
Yep.
Here's the first time we see it. Jury management is a real thing. I think that at least part of this is due to that.
For sure.
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think she's doing it on purpose. I think she had different reasons where she just didn't want to commit one way or the other, or she couldn't decide. I don't think she was specifically doing this as a way to manage the jury and, like, looking forward that far. I don't think I can give her that credit.
It's up for debate for sure. There's not a clear-cut answer here with Kelly.
And, I mean, of course, ultimately, it's going to turn on her with Sue's monologue towards the end, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, let's say she is doing this jury management thing and trying to win these Pagong people over. Guess what? You're pissing off Toggy. You know, this is a wash, maybe making it worse for yourself. Honestly, just stick with what you're doing. Don't be that person who's so obviously playing the middle, but be the most likable person.
I would say you can have a direction and still do jury management by being empathetic.
Yeah, if you can form a personal connection with, like, your Jenna and Colleen, but still be like, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm with Toggy. This is my best move. I don't think people will be as mad at you as for what she's going to end up doing.
Well, because think about the people that are going to be left there, the other 3 people. You don't have to be the most likable person in this group. You just have to be the most likable person out of the final 4.
Yeah, it's not great. So this is bad for Kelly. And then Sean's good. This is alphabet strategy, obviously, is terrible. Sean should probably honestly flip, because he's 5th in that Toggy group, and he's not winning against any of them. So he needs to do something to try and earn some respect in this game, and I think by flipping would be his best goal.
Yeah, Modern Survivor, that's the move.
I don't think, no matter what Sean does, I don't think he wins the game.
Yeah, I think Sean
he can make himself go as far as possible by flipping.
Get $100,000.
But yeah, I don't think either by staying or flipping, or staying and flipping later, or flipping multiple times, no matter what, I don't think Sean wins.
Yeah, Sean is drawing dead. If there's one person left who can't win, it's Sean.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And for that reason, I'm guessing you're going to give him worst player this episode.
We can start worst player of the episode for Sean. He told everybody he's voting out Jenna. He's annoying everybody with his alphabet strategy. He looked like a freaking idiot at Tribal Council.
I have no objection.
No. And then best player.
Colleen. She picked Jenna to go on this reward. She attempted to form a counter alliance with some good strategy talk. Colleen's got some strategy chops, surprisingly. She has some really good points, and unfortunately, she just can't win Kelly over, but she tries and makes it. She kind of helps tank Kelly's spot in her own game. What she does here makes it difficult enough for Kelly, and Kelly's going to hurt her own game, cause some chaos, cause some cracks, and that's great for Colleen's spot. It's not going to end up working out for her, but I appreciate the attempts.
Should have started earlier.
Yep. I got no qualms with that.
Let's talk a little bit about Jenna Lewis real quick. So we will see Jenna Lewis back on Survivor, so it's just something to note.
Is this the first person that has been voted off in this season?
Yep. Yeah, Jenna's the first person to be eliminated from the season who will play again. You guys excited to see Jenna play again?
I think so. I think we saw enough of strategic chops and willingness to play where if she had a second go around, she's not going to make those same mistakes. I know nothing. I know zero about what Jenna... I didn't even know she came back. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, she was trying to organize the Women's Alliance. She just seems to have this fire, this burning desire to win. I don't know. I would like to see her again.
Okay. This is going to be basically my same opinion with everyone who plays again. I think that I'd be excited no matter what, just because they now know what Survivor is. Sure. So they're not going to just use it as like a cool experience type of thing.
Sure. They'll actually play this time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully.
On to episode 10, Cracking the Alliance. I wonder who that could be. Kelly. They revealed that originally Jarvis was going to be the...
Okay, Sue.
Sorry, Jarvis. They reveal that Jarvis was going to be the original target, but it was switched to Jenna after he won immunity. And we have a lot of talk about what happened during this tribal, and Sean is finally going to abandon the alphabet strategy after having a direct hand in 2 people going home unwittingly.
Yep.
Great job, Sean. Really love it. But Richard, he's upset. He got 3 votes at this tribal. He's like, okay, why am I catching fish for you if y'all are just going to vote me off? I'm gonna limit this. I respect this move too.
This is a great move. Being a provider doesn't mean that much. It means the most in this season, but already that's going away fast. So why waste your energy?
Absolutely. If you can survive to the end without catching fish, maybe you do it to pass the time. There's no idols. I mean...
I stick around and work my social game, talk to people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't catch anything.
But then we also have some other shenanigans going on here. Maybe shenanigans is too strong of a word, but Sue is now working with Kelly with plans to undermine Richard.
They've been working together. This is the first time we're really hearing about it.
Oh,
but
okay.
Sue and Kelly had been planning on duping Richard eventually. It was going to be, they had a final 2 deal, and they're going to turn on Richard at some point.
So I wonder why they didn't show that.
Season 1 doesn't have their editing together yet.
That's fair.
But Sue, I really like, because she's playing up this redneck role and kind of playing dumb. And that's a legitimate strategy. I can think of one very prominent winner later on that uses that strategy to perfection.
You just don't want to do it for too long and appear as a goat.
I think you can do it all the way to the final tribal council and then basically take off your Scooby-Doo mask, reveal who you were the whole time.
I think you have to be careful about that. Just because if you try to do that and get to final tribal and try to make that plea to the jury, a goat can do the exact same thing and just say, yeah, this person was a part of it, but I really was like, I was actually the person behind it. They can just be like, okay, yeah, okay, sure.
It's
sure
tricky,
you were.
But it's been done. It has been done.
Yes, I'm just saying I don't think that it's a great strategy. Yeah. Maybe give it a little bit earlier.
Maybe a little earlier than Tribal
taking
Council.
it all the way.
I'll sign off on that. But
like final 6 is when you should
pull
probably expose yourself.
But I like what Sue's doing with this right now.
It's a bold strategy. Let's see if it works out.
It won't.
No, it won't.
But I like it.
But some other notable things that happened this episode, they ultimately don't have a huge bearing on what happens, but Jervis has a kid. They talk about that a lot. They talk about family structure. Clearly, Rudy has a very different feel about it, especially, I mean, not to say that age is everything, but there definitely is a generational divide. And it's really funny when you have down the road millennials versus Gen X, and then you've got in here, it's almost like boomers versus Gen X in a way. And Gen X, they say the exact same things that the millennials are saying down the road.
Season 3 is the biggest example of this. There's a big one of this in Season 3 where it's like boomers versus Gen Xers. Gen Xers are so lazy. And then later on, the Gen Xers are going to say, oh, the millennials are so lazy. You know, stuff like that. Maybe it's just an old difference between old people and young people. Calm down, everybody.
That's really all it is.
It's really all it is.
With a slight difference in lifestyle.
Yeah.
But, you know, Rudy shares his thoughts. You know, that's pretty different from everyone. Everyone else is basically, you know, Jervis has his kids as long as he's a responsible father. Do your thing. But we get more of that. I don't want to call it like a drama aspect, but just human aspect.
Yep.
We get to see more of that because, again, this is stuff that's kind of lost in Modern Survivor.
For sure.
Sans loved ones visit.
For sure.
So I still miss this. I didn't even know that I missed it until I missed it. Now I miss it. But Jervis goes on to win the reward as well. He wins some pizza. He gives everyone a bite. I love this move.
For sure. I mean, later on it's going to be pretty transparent when you do this, but if you're just getting one piece of pizza, just give everybody a bite. Why the hell not?
What's the difference?
Kelly decides that she's no longer part of the Toggy Alliance. She's done. She's not part of it. She's not going to tell them that, but she's out. Stupid. Yeah. Terrible.
Well, why? You just said during the last episode that she should flip on the next vote.
Well, I guess by not
because she's not making it public.
I guess, but I still think Kelly should stay with Toggy because I don't think she can beat Colleen or Jervis. There's no point in going with them.
So you're saying maybe like one more vote?
No, I don't think she should flip at all. I think she needs to take Sue or Sean to the end. I think she needs to make a final 3 deal with Sue and Sean. Vote out either one. Take your pick and go to the end with those two. I think for Kelly, this is what needs to happen. Get rid of Jervis. Get rid of Colleen. Get rid of Rudy. Get rid of Richard. Final 3, who cares? You're going to beat either Sue or Sean.
Yeah, I suppose when you're down to the final 5, all that's left is Toggy anyways. Yeah. So.
And I think when he was talking about her committing to a flip, I mean, that's just committing to an action.
And I think she should have committed to sticking with Toggy.
Yeah, but if she were to do something in the previous episode, just commit to it. No half measures.
No half measures.
Just do it. Then at least you can own your game down the road and say, yeah, I betrayed you. I didn't think that it was in my best interest to go any farther with you. You can call me any names you want. You're on the jury. I'm not. She ultimately would never do this.
No, but she should.
I mean, she tries to be like the Snow White, Cinderella, innocent. I played this game super ethically, and I didn't want to hurt feelings.
Better person.
I'm a better person. Self-righteous.
Yeah, a little self-righteous.
And I don't mean that in a negative fashion. It's just how it kind of comes across. Yeah. So, is it well understood though that if Richard doesn't win immunity here, because this is the fire making immunity challenge where this ends up being the tiebreaker later on, but Richard builds the fire, he wins immunity, does his little jig in the sand.
Hilarious.
Does Richard go home tonight?
No.
You don't think?
No, not at all. I don't think Sue's gonna make. I think Sue's pissed off enough at Kelly at this point that they weren't gonna make the move on Richard yet.
Okay. Well, then ultimately, Richard wins immunity has absolutely no bearing on the vote once again because it was not a Pagong member who won.
Yep.
Jervis goes home.
Yeah, Colleen and Jervis, they're trying to get Kelly and Sean to join them. Sean says he'll do it if Kelly does. Should either of them? Kelly? No. Sean, if Kelly's not going to do it, well, you're kind of screwed. Sean's kind of out of the equation. It really comes down to Kelly, and I don't think Kelly should flip. I think she needs to stick with Toggy.
And I would agree with that. If you were going to do something, Sean, it's too late. You solidified your position. The best you could do is try and get Sue and Kelly to vote out a Rudy or a Rich.
Sure.
But either way now, you are riding this to top 5 and then try and do something from there. But
there's potential to do that. There is.
Especially in Modern Survivor.
Yeah.
But this season, Richard Hatch, again, he's playing Season 10 Survivor. Everyone else is still stuck in Season 1.
Yep. So Jervis and Colleen end up voting for Sean. Okay. I mean, I guess they kind of figured, yeah, nothing's going to happen. Fuck it. We'll vote for Sean.
At least we'll vote together.
And everybody else votes for Jervis. Jervis or Colleen, who should go home?
Jervis. I say. He's been a bigger threat in the immunity challenges as of late, ever since they became individual.
Maybe he's slightly more likable.
Yeah, I think
but it's close.
Both of them have solid social games. Colleen's more dangerous strategically. Jervis is more dangerous physically. It's kind of a wash.
Well, and the other thing that I would say is, at this point, I think we were even commenting, Colleen is so done with this.
Yeah.
Hold her hostage. She doesn't want to play anymore. She is much better to have around.
Yeah, if you have someone who doesn't really care, it's usually better to keep that person around, especially in the post-merge.
Yeah.
Maybe she'll quit.
Can you imagine if we were sitting here talking about Colleen versus BB? They just hold him hostage all the way to top 6. Anyway, but ultimately no bearing on the episode. Jervis goes home. Best player of the episode?
Best player of the episode is Sue Hawk for scheming behind Richard's back and for getting rid of Jervis.
I don't have anything that I can say to argue. Richard is still creme de la creme, doing what he's doing. Won an immunity, but other than that, I mean... But
the thing is, Richard didn't know about Sue or Kelly, and he feels admits it later.
Yeah.
So that's a plus for Sue.
Worst player.
Kelly Wigglesworth for quitting the alliance, which is stupid, and scheming with Pagong out in the open, and everybody's like, the hell are you doing?
Yeah, this is the right call.
Yeah, agree.
Jervis, we're also going to see again. Are you guys excited to see Jervis play again?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, 1, I want to know if he ever learned how to swim.
Yeah.
And Two, anytime you have someone, I mean, especially the game he played, he played the social game while nobody else was playing the social game, and he succeeded as far as he could succeed on the social game alone. If he were to add just a little bit of strategy, I bet he could do quite a bit better, especially if he stays as likable and is able to develop those relationships as well.
My thoughts are basically echoed on that.
Okay.
About the same.
Episode 11 now. Long Hard Days. Richard and Sue start to bring Sean on board of this whole alliance thing. And this is going to be a direct result from the wishy-washiness of Kelly. Like, okay, fine. If she's out, we need someone else.
Sean is number 4 now.
Yeah.
He's moved up.
Absolutely. Way to go, Kelly. And then another really funny thing. Rudy's making vague threats like, if you're going to give me your word and you break your word, I got friends.
Yeah, I know people.
I know people. And Rich is like, oh, yeah, well, I'm just not going to mess with this guy.
Who is this guy?
It's
That's Rudy's go-to strategy move, is threaten bodily harm on the outside.
And if I'm them, I take him seriously.
I believe it.
This seems like the type of guy who there might actually be an actual threat here.
Rudy has 100% killed people before. I don't doubt he could do it again.
And meanwhile, all this is going on. Colleen is just disgusted. She's out of this game. We talked about it before. She's held hostage at this point. She's just like, this is a stupid game. I don't like this. I think part of this is her being a poor sport.
Yeah.
And then the other part is like, just send me home. I don't want to be here anymore. Can we vote now?
I don't understand why Colleen was kind of America's sweetheart. She was so popular at the time. And I don't get the appeal. I don't care for Colleen.
Cute and bubbly.
Yeah,
I mean, you kind of have to you have to think about what people usually mean by America's sweetheart. Just someone who is cute and can kind of be relatable.
Colleen is not my least favorite player of the season, but she's my least favorite player who makes the merge.
I don't hold anything against Colleen for becoming America's sweetheart of the show per se. I guess that's not why I've ever watched Survivor, is for the way she played the game. So honestly, she didn't stick out to me other than being the one on Pagong with the most confessionals.
She sticks out because she was so popular. She was invited back for All Stars, declined, and has basically disappeared. Nobody knows really where she is.
Yeah, and I mean, when we were watching the reunion show, like, there was a definite difference between the applause that she got versus everyone else's. Like, even people who were like in like the Final Four or anything. Yeah. And when you say she's the person that you like dislike the most, Sean.
I think Sean is a better character than Colleen.
No, I don't care.
I enjoy watching Sean play Survivor more than I enjoy watching Colleen play Survivor. I get annoyed with Colleen. Sean is funny to me. I think Sean is hilarious.
I think Sean's just an idiot.
Dumb idiot. No, he's an idiot for sure, but I find that more entertaining to watch than what Colleen
does. I think he's just as frustrating, but okay. Either way.
Ultimately, this doesn't end up really mattering either way because, spoilers, Colleen is going to go home this episode. That's why they call it a pagonging, because they all got voted out one by one, and even though it wasn't as linear as maybe some alliances down the road will make it, fact is, Pagong is gone.
Yep.
Before we get that far, we have Sean winning reward. He gets to go on a yacht after playing Survivor Jeopardy of sorts, and says he's going to take Kelly, and then flips at the last second and takes Richard instead. This makes Kelly really angry, but at the same time, I want to go ahead and put a little bit of fault on Sean, a little bit of fault on Kelly here. Sean was like, Kelly, do you want to go on this? And Kelly's like, it's your decision, Sean. And then Sean's like, okay, I want to take Richard. And then Kelly's like, I can't believe that Sean did that. He wants to put it on me. He wants to put that decision onerous on me. And I'm thinking, okay, but you just did this. You did the same thing back to him, and now you're mad that he made a decision and it wasn't you. And you're just mad because he made a promise earlier. I don't know. I do think that I'm going to call it 50-50 on both of them for this.
I'll say 60-40 on Sean, but Kelly's not blameless here.
I don't remember this end of this sequence happening, but from what it sounds like, I feel like I would put much more blame on Kelly than Sean, because exactly what you're saying, like, Sean gives her the choice, she doesn't commit, she doesn't say, like, yeah, I want to go, like, duh, obviously, like, anyone would want to go, but she doesn't say that, so I don't think, she loses all ability to sit, like, be mad after that.
No. Well, and the way that I heard it, because Sean is all but hopping up on this boat with Jeff Probst to go off to the yacht. And he's like, Kelly, do you want to come for breakfast tomorrow? I took that as almost like a, just say yes. Like, are you excited? Are you excited? Do you want this? Like, Because Sean, he's just trying to be a good guy. Yep. For better or for worse as a player, he is who he is, and he does not change. And Kelly says, whatever you want to do. Sean's like, no, I don't want to invite that person to a boat. Like, I want someone who wants it, and Rich wants it. So good on Rich for saying, yeah, I'll take the eggs, and bad on Kelly.
Think of it like a promotion at work. You have your manager that asks you, and is this like a new position that you would want? Like, are you interested in like kind of like stepping up into a different role? No, it's up to you. Yeah, that can be like, oh, if you see that I'm fit, whatever, but that manager wants you to be ambitious about it and really wants you to be excited for it because it makes the entire team just work better together. I think this can be like a similar type of scenario. Then you move on to the next person and they're like, yes, like I obviously want this, like definitely.
It's a really good analogy and I never thought about that before.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
I like that.
I agree with Josh.
Here's what should have happened here. Sean picking Richard is the right move in a vacuum because he caught all this fish for them. Also, Richard's kind of the key player here. Sean getting good with Richard. Great. It's just the promise to Kelly. Just don't promise rewards to people. Never promise rewards to people. No good can come from it.
Yeah, that's fine. On to the immunity challenge here, though. We're going to have a showdown where they're all standing on a balance beam in the middle of the water. Now, I know that I have a section at the end of the episode about Jeff watching what he's been doing, but Jeff wades through the water here and takes a machete and cuts the rope in order to make this balance beam skinnier every half hour or whatever.
That. We have Jeff in the ocean is hilarious.
He would never do that nowadays, but he's just out there. He's doing his best. And we've got Richard Hatch singing 99 bottles of beer on a wall. He gets all the way down to like 65 before knocking himself out of the challenge because he goes for the big, grand, like maestro finale and just falls over. And everyone's just like, thank God.
Oh, I love Richard Hatch.
And then they do a little bit of scheming on the beach like, and now we are down to Colleen and Kelly standing on the balance beam, both fighting for their survival on the island. Because they're going to vote out Kelly tonight.
This is actually one of my favorite scenes in the season because we get to see Richard and Rudy just sitting on the beach scheming and plotting together openly, but they can't hear him out on that challenge. It's pretty cool.
And then eventually Sue's there too, and Sean's off doing something, and they're like, so it's going to be Sean tonight then? Sean tonight? I'm actually not sure because I know it ends up being Colleen, but they kind of switch from what they say because they say if it's not Kelly, it's going to be Sean, and then it ends up not being Sean. With thoughts?
I think it must be that they all really like Colleen. Because on her way out the door, Richard's going to say she's a wonderful person. And Colleen has said some not so nice things about Richard, but Richard and the others seem to really like Colleen more than they like Sean or Kelly. So I think that's what it is. But like the smart move is to get rid of Colleen here. Yeah. Take Sean as far as you can. What is he going to do?
Yeah. Finish off the other tribe.
Yeah. Colleen will win if she gets to the end. So that's the smart move is take out Colleen.
Yep, and that's exactly how the votes are going to go down. Colleen falls off. Kelly Wigglesworth begins a pretty strong run of immunity wins here, saving herself inadvertently.
She would have gone home here.
Colleen ultimately receives the vote of the entire Toggy Alliance. And
one vote for Sean.
One vote for Sean. Bye-bye.
Because he's a putz.
All right, so best player of the episode.
Richard Hatch. He brings Sean into the fold. He gets to go on the reward and gets rid of Colleen. Now, he and Sue basically had the same episode, beat for beat. The only reason Richard wins is because he had the better relationship with Sean to get to go on this reward. And that's the only reason he beats Sue.
And then I think worst player, it's got to be Kelly.
Easy. She's playing both sides too, obviously. Everybody thinks she's a two-faced person. And she was on the wrong side. She's just on the wrong side. Oh, wait. Oh, I'm sorry. Kelly and Colleen both vote for Sean. So Kelly also throws her vote on Sean. So okay. She was on the wrong side of the vote as well.
So purposely putting yourself into the minority alliance, spoiler alert, not a great strategy in any season of Survivor.
Shocker.
Yep.
And with that, Pagong has been laid to rest.
Colleen will go on to star in the film The Animal alongside Rob Schneider and then basically disappear.
But then, with Pagong being gone, they are Pagong. The aptly named episode 12, The Death of an Alliance. There's no more common enemy.
Yep, it's all Toggy.
Every man, every woman for themselves. Everyone is scheming and plotting now. Now, this is where I'd like to just remind everyone that Richard, in my opinion, has been playing Season 10 Survivor since episode 1, we'll say 2.
Sure.
All these other people are just realizing, oh no, there's no way to get to the end. Keeping your nose clean.
Yep.
You can't do it. Richard has this great confessional in this episode where he's like, is it Machiavellian? Maybe. But the ends justify the means. I love that. Yep. And I wish that we had I mean, we have a lot of people nowadays who just own their games and what they do, and that's the right move.
Yep.
We see respect from the jury. I mean, every once in a while something bitter, but I love it. And then also in this episode, we see this huge blow up between Sue and Kelly, and Richard somehow becomes the middleman on this. Yeah. And this is the prime example of him playing season 10 Survivor. He's playing chess while everyone is playing checkers. Kelly comes to him and gives him every chance to throw Sue under the bus, but Rich just kind of plays it off.
He's like reassuring her. He's like comforting Kelly. And
yeah.
Like, hey, it sucks. It's okay. He's being like a shoulder for her to cry on a little bit.
Yeah.
And this might be peak Richard social game.
This is the one social move that Richard makes, and he in his confessional he says, "I get to be the peacemaker. I get to smooth things over. I get to be in this position. That was me. I did that."
And I think it's kind of interesting more as you get these people, now that we're like nearing the end of the game, trying to dive into parts of their own game that they have lacked up to this point, and I guess how they handle it. So if you're looking at like Rich, he handles kind of the social side better than he had previously up until this point. Whereas you have Sue and Kelly, they're new to the whole strategy side, and I think it's very obvious that they're new to the whole strategy side because they don't handle it well.
Especially Kelly.
I mean, ultimately, a lot of tension in camp leading up to the reward challenge. Now, to me, Jeff gives a kind of a mumbo-jumbo speech about, like, I'm kind of aware of what's going on in camp, so I wanted to give you guys something fun to do. We're going to roll around in the mud, and you're going to win a beer. Ryan, you've got super fan Ryan.
This is a really funny story. So the original reward for this challenge was one single beer. Now they just saw Sean win a night on a yacht with 2 meals, a shower, a massage, and his father got to visit him too.
Bud Light is fine, but if it's gonna be
flip that, reverse it. Seriously, I don't know what they were thinking. And here's the other thing: Richard does not drink beer. What the hell would he compete in this challenge for? So all the cast members were like, yeah, we're not going to do this for a beer. Are you kidding me? So they up it, and they bring everybody in. They're like, okay, here's the actual reward. The beer's a starter, and then we're going to take you to this bar in town, and you'll get a meal, some more beers, and you get to watch the first 5 minutes of the first episode. Pretty cool reward, I think, especially for being the first season.
But knowing the story, you know that's like a fire drill. We need to think
just
of
like,
something
as
now.
they're in this challenge, he's just radioing back, just like, put something together now.
Yeah, and so what they ended up doing was back at their production camp, they turned their like cafeteria into like what looked like a local bar. That's not a real bar.
So do you think this was really obvious to Kelly, who ends up winning?
Maybe not. I don't know.
Or do you think she's fooled by it and actually think that
she
it's
might
a
be
bar?
fooled? I think they did a good job of they filled it with a bunch of extras.
It was fine. It was fine.
It was, I wouldn't have noticed unless I'd seen the background stuff, because I watched the behind the scenes thing about Survivor 1, and it was so funny. Jeff's telling this story, just like cracking up. He's like, what do we do?
Yeah.
But hey, you still got a meal out of it.
Yep, Kelly gets a meal, she gets a couple of beers, and she gets to hang out with Jeff Probst, basically.
Which I definitely think they should do more often.
I like
just these
that.
one-on-one sit-downs, because he's kind of like a therapist to her almost.
Yeah.
Just like, so how's it going?
Yeah, how you doing? He's so nice. And and get to watch the opening of Survivor. And this was back in the day when they did these individual intros for everybody, so Kelly gets to see her intro.
Yeah.
It's cool. I like it.
But in general, there's some pretty corny Survivor production issues going on around this reward challenge. And this is going to spill over into the immunity challenge in this episode as well. We have the Survivor Witch Project.
Might be my number one challenge of all time. This might be my absolute favorite challenge.
Why?
It's a very poorly put together challenge.
No, it's so
because I mean, I've always had an issue with especially immunity challenges where you can just feed off of other people, and as long as you're right by someone and you don't know the answer, you can just be like, okay, yeah, all right, I heard that person. Now I'm going to say it into my own.
You know what? That will happen in a later season, and somebody's going to use that to their advantage and basically flip it, trick somebody into taking the wrong thing, and then take the right thing.
And I mean, you see it with putting together puzzles and everything.
I like that kind of stuff, so I'm okay with it.
I've always had an issue with it. I've just not enjoyed it.
I like that. If you give the players the opportunity to cheat, but it's technically not cheating, I'm on board.
Okay, so I'll actually counter that with I'm okay with it as long as they give them the opportunity to cover it. So for a puzzle in Modern Day Survivor, they have dividers, or they have tarps that you can put on it, or maybe you have a line of people next to the puzzle, literally anything, so that someone can't just literally just look over and be like, oh, yep, that's what it is. Let me do the exact same thing and just be faster.
I think it'd be more fun if there was walls, but you could run over and look at somebody else, but you have to be super obvious about it and like stand next to them so everybody knows what you're doing and kind of how scummy you're being. But it's an option. I think they should be able to do that.
For me, in later seasons when we start to see word scrambles, I want those covered. That is in poor spirit of the game if you can peek over. Now, these more story time ones, because I love Jeff's story time challenges.
Yeah.
I do, and I haven't seen enough of them in Modern Survivor. I think maybe 2.
Yeah, because they did it in Cambodia.
They don't happen that often anymore.
Yeah.
But I think what they end up doing more often is like it's like actual like stations, and you can only have one person at a station at a time. You have to like wait outside like a hut or something for that person to come out before entering.
There's a few different ways to do it.
Yeah.
But this challenge, it starts off, they receive a video camera, and it's Jeff doing a parody of the Blair Witch Project, the Survivor Witch Project. And it's the corniest, funniest thing I've ever seen in my life.
I loved the intro to this.
And basically, they have to run around in the woods answering questions about a story Jeff tells.
What was that noise?
Which is a classic 2000s video recorder.
And this was the first bit of Survivor I'd ever seen. Because I remember when this was airing, I was aware of Survivor. I hadn't seen it, but I knew what it was. I'd seen like magazine covers. I knew who Richard Hatch was. I knew who Rudy was. I was like 6 at the time. I knew both those guys were. Didn't really know anybody else. But I remember walking through the living room. My parents were watching Survivor, and this challenge was on. So I remember watching Rudy running through the jungle. And that is my first Survivor memory.
And all the answers that Rudy got correct.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Kelly ends up winning. I love this challenge. This is one of my all-time, if not my all-time favorite challenge in Survivor history.
Kelly wins second immunity, individual immunity in a row, and we're going to go to tribal.
Well, right before that, Sue and Kelly, they agree to stay civil, but Sue tells Kelly to her face that she wants her out next. That's not the right move. Sue.
And if I remember right, she says, I will not let you get to the final 3.
Yeah.
No, you don't. You've just given someone a deadline to act against you. And guess what? Kelly's going to do that.
Yeah. And this is going to cost Sue the game. This right here will cost Sue the game.
Now, granted, Sue doesn't win against Richard or Kelly or Rudy.
No, Sue will not win this game against anybody but Sean.
And that would have been a heck of a road for her to get there with Sean. Yep. This loses her the game. This is her. It's not $1 million mistake, but it's at least $100,000 mistake.
Sure, I'll agree. Because we're going to go to tribal council. Everybody's going to vote for Sean, who in turn votes for Sue. I don't hate the move to get rid of Sean. Here's why. Because Richard and Rudy, they knock out Sean. Sue and Kelly aren't going to work together anymore. Guess what? Richard and Rudy control the game. They could go either way if they wanted to.
Yeah.
So it makes perfect sense for them. Kelly, I think, should want to get rid of Sue personally, because that's an avenue that should be gone. So that's 2-1. And then Sean and Sue should vote for each other. Sean should go here. That makes the most sense to me.
Yeah.
So you don't think that somehow they put their differences aside and have Sue, Kelly, and Sean team up? If they are smart enough to realize that no one's gonna beat the other two, and just kind of see, and this is a little more of a perfect scenario, like perfect world scenario, and they can basically say like, I don't want you to win, you don't want me to win, but if either of us want to win, we have to do this.
They need to get rid of Rudy here, or Richard, I guess, but Rudy's the biggest jury threat at this point.
I think either of the two.
Rudy beats everybody. In a perfect world, Sean, Kelly, and Sue team up. They knock out Rudy. They knock out Richard. They're the final 3.
Then you can hate each other and go at it.
Hate each other as much as you want. And then knock Kelly out at 3, ideally. But she's going to win that one, period.
The enemy of my enemy.
Yep. So, but in a world where Sue and Kelly are not going to work together, Sean is the person who should go home here.
Yep, I'm cool with that. And, I mean, best player of the episode, I have it written down. It's got to be Richard Hatch here.
Because the way he plays nice with Kelly. And getting rid of Sean was a great move for him.
Finally, his social game shows. Yep. I mean, like I said, Richard is no game bot, and social is where he was lacking. Because, I mean, he's won a number of challenges, and he certainly is the strategic champion of this season. Finally, you leverage a social situation to your advantage. Go, Richard.
And now we're finally down to the original Toggy 4.
Worst player of the episode is Sue Hawk for fighting with Kelly, telling her she's against her the way she does, and really for voting out Sean, because they need to go after Rudy or Richard.
Yeah, and I'll double down on don't give somebody a deadline.
Yeah.
Don't give someone a deadline to act against you. If you tell someone that a bomb is going to go off in 10 minutes...
That's 10 minutes of them trying to stop it.
Yeah, don't tell them that bomb is going off.
Tell them 10 seconds before.
No. Bad move, Sue.
Yeah.
Gotta be the worst.
So now we are down to the original Tuggy 4.
Final four.
And
finale.
And isn't it fitting? The 4 that were in the Alliance shows the power of the game, shows how strategy affects the game. To me, from a storytelling perspective, there is no better Final 4.
For the betterment of Survivor.
For the betterment of Survivor.
Also,
that is how I meant to say that.
Because we've talked about this on and off, both on mic and off mic, just between us. Who knows where we would be at now?
Yeah.
It might not matter in the grand scheme of things, but this definitely helps with where this show, this franchise, moves and how people act within it.
So the first thing that happens is Sue reveals that she had a side alliance with Kelly to Richard. Don't reveal that, Sue. She now wants to go to the end with Richard, and that's great, but that opens Richard's eyes a little bit. Like, whoa, I did not know about that. Don't tell people that until after the game is over.
Yeah, especially when you're this close.
We go to Immunity Challenge, which is going to happen at Tribal Council in front of the jury. And basically it's going to be trivia questions about the game and the people who have played so far. It's called Fallen Comrades Immunity Challenge. You kind of have to show how much you know and how much you've interacted with the previous players. And Kelly wins, and Richard does the worst.
Kelly flexes actually a little bit here. I think, a lot of her actions come across as disingenuous, and we've talked about it. I mean, you just got to own the fact that you're playing a little dirty. But this is actually where I think she's, ultimately going to end up getting some votes.
Oh, yeah.
Some jury votes for her, because
this impresses Jenna for sure.
It impresses Jenna for sure, but she says, I wasn't just talking to you to play both sides. I wanted to get to know you. So either she was committed to the bit here and she memorized these facts about these people and wins this game, or she actually genuinely wanted to get to know these people. And I'd like to think that it's probably the latter with her.
I agree, because there's no reason to suspect there should be a challenge where you have to know Jenna's kids' first names.
And she points that out.
And she knows their middle names too. That was a flex.
That was a flex.
But Richard does the worst here. And kind of embarrassing performance.
Yeah.
From Richard. Not a great moment for him.
I think he ends up with 2 or 3 points.
Yeah, it was by far the lowest.
And for comparison, Kelly ends up with 8.
Yep.
Kelly and Sue both performed well in this
I was
challenge.
going to say they went to a tiebreaker.
And Rudy was only 1 behind them.
I thought Rudy was 2 behind them.
1 behind them, and then the tiebreaker.
Which was shocking, because everyone going in was just like, Rudy's not going to do well at this.
Sure. But either way, we have Kelly flexing on everyone. She wins immunity for the 3rd straight time. And again, we don't know what happens here if she doesn't win immunity. I don't know how many times. I think it's at least 2 that she goes home if she doesn't win immunity.
Kelly goes home here if she doesn't win immunity.
Now we're left with 2 voting blocks. We have Rudy and Richard, and we have Kelly and Sue. Now, I'm not a betting man, but if I were, I'm going to guess which one of those voting blocks isn't breaking apart. It's going to be Richard, and that's going to be Rudy.
So we end up with 2 votes for Richard, 2 votes for Sue. Guess what?
Yeah.
Never in a million years is Rudy going to flip. Never.
No.
And Sue doesn't even try. She's like, Rudy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should try, Sue, but at the same time, I get it.
So I think what would have been the better play here is don't even talk to Rudy. Talk to Kelly.
Yeah.
And give her a reason not to flip.
That is a good
So
point.
because basically that's exactly what Rich did, is said this is why you should flip,
Yeah, he talks
and
to
she
both.
should just say this is why you shouldn't flip.
Richard talks to both Kelly and Rudy a little bit, and Sue doesn't do much at all.
If you had a good enough reason, I think you would have been able to keep her.
Yeah. So what ends up happening is they have to do a revote. Kelly and Rudy are going to vote again. Rudy's obviously not going to flip. Kelly flips her vote. So Sue gets enough votes. Sue was out of the game. This is a terrible move.
This is her second $1 million mistake.
Kelly loses the game here because at this point, Kelly can't win.
And I think this is worse than the first one.
Yes, agreed.
Oh, 100%. You're already in the top 4.
Yeah.
Kelly has immunity. She is not going home. They don't necessarily know what the tiebreaker is going to be, and we technically don't know. I think it was supposed to be some sort of challenge. We don't know what it was going to be. But you're not going home. Guess what? Richard or Ruby going home is better than Sue going home. So just stick with the plan. Stay with Sue, even though there's that issue there. It is far better to go to get Richard or Rudy out of the game, however it plays out.
And you're also not going to make any enemies by keeping your vote the same.
Yep.
And by flipping, I feel like you're going to
Piss
make
off
more.
Sue.
Yeah.
Well, and there's self-awareness. Kelly, you can only guaranteed beat Sue in a final 2. Yeah. You need to try and keep her around.
She had a fighting chance against Richard. Fair. No chance against Rudy. But Sue is a guaranteed win. Keep Sue. Find a way to keep Sue. This is terrible.
I don't understand this move whatsoever.
might be the worst move of the season.
And you know what? She's going to win Worst Player of the Episode. I think we're all in agreement that there's no other choice.
No other choice.
Yep.
Best player of the episode is Rudy, because he and Richard both get 2 out of the game rather than them, but Rudy does much better in the immunity challenge than Richard does, and it's a bad look for Richard.
Well, and then also Rudy isn't even tempted to switch his vote.
No.
He has no reason. There's no benefit to him if Richard goes home.
And it was never a question, so.
Sue Hawk is going to come back and play again.
Other than giving every Midwesterner a really bad rap about the accent, I mean, yes, it happens, and yes, we all have it a little bit. We ain't so bad. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I love Sue.
I want to see her again. She's great TV. I don't think she could ever win, but I would take her on another season.
So same thing with the other guys. I want to see him again, but I want to see a different play style.
Sure. Now, here's the question for you, Josh, because Sue was your winner pick.
Yeah.
Now, putting everything you know aside, looking at it as unbiased as you can, Richard, Rudy, Kelly, who is your new winner pick?
So it's super easy to just say Richard if I'm just looking at a person. If I'm going to break it down further and just kind of look at like scenarios and look at these 3 people that are remaining and how the voting all works out, I have no idea. Because I don't think Kelly can win. If she goes up against Richard, I think she loses. If she goes up against Rudy, I think she loses. So now it's more, do I think that it's going to be Rich and Rudy at the end? Because like you said, Rudy wins no matter what against either of these 2 people. And I think that's just more, that's just trying to assume positioning way too much. So I think I have to just go with Richard.
Okay.
I think he's just in the best spot to win once he gets to, if he's able to get to final tribal. I think he's in one of the best spots.
And I'm just going to interject here for a second. To me, if I were Josh, and obviously I can't put words in his mouth, but to me, I would say it's absolutely Richard. But all I've seen is New School Survivor. To me, Richard has very clearly played the best game. It wasn't until I was talking to you, Ryan, last night about this. You were saying Rudy beats everyone at the end, and I'm thinking, why? Why? I mean, he's not GOAT bad.
And that's why I'm trying to put myself into season 1 view, because I will agree with Ryan that no matter what, if Rudy makes it to the end, he wins.
And I just
so it
don't
depends
see
on what that final challenge is, and this is me trying to assume that I don't know what the final challenge is. And if Rudy wins that challenge, he wins because people aren't voting strategically, they're voting socially.
Yeah, and I respect that. I mean, I certainly don't know enough to dispute this. I've seen so much modern Survivor. This just doesn't make sense to me. I don't see how Rudy beats anyone, and that's fine. I bow to those who know.
I think
more.
you just said it right there. You've seen modern Survivor. You're thinking in a modern lens and not in a season 1 lens.
And yeah, I acknowledge the bias there.
You gotta know Richard was the notorious villain. Everybody saw him as like this evil bastard who was just a maniacal villain. That's how Richard was seen by everybody.
And I never saw him like that.
Watching this now, Richard is not a villain, but season 1, Richard was
100%
the biggest villain.
So I guess the reason why I said Richard instead of Rudy is because I just straight up think that Richard is more likely to win the final challenge than Rudy is.
Yeah,
so.
no, and that's fine. I wasn't meaning to step on toes or anything.
Yeah. Oh, no, I mean, it's a good conversation.
Now that you've explained that, because last night I was like, how are you questioning me on this? Because we're going to talk about Richard's big move at the final 3 here. And I was stating that it's the best move of the season, and you couldn't understand. And on the flip side, I'm like, how do you not see this? And now that you've stated it in this way, through your lens, it makes a lot more sense.
Sure.
And we can talk about that more.
Final 3, we have Kelly Wigglesworth, we have Richard Hatch, and we have Rudy Bosch. We're going to do some really fun Survivor production cheeseball moves. Ryan, we have torches, we have...
Yep.
Yeah.
This was a staple for a long time where we do the torches of all the fallen contestants, and you probably haven't seen this before.
No, I've never seen this.
They do this for a long time.
So
corny.
I don't know, just because I don't know what other people's like preferences are on this. This is one of my least favorite things in Survivor, is I can't stand the tribute that they did an extremely long time, way too long, just because it takes up so much time. And I just watched an entire season of all these people. I don't need a review of it. It's like having a review episode in Survivor, which they also do.
Yep.
For way too long.
You know, I know a lot of people don't like this. It's a very popular common consensus is a lot of people don't like this. I think it's a waste of time. I've always had a fondness for it just because it was like a staple of early Survivor, which I watched. I was always super excited for it. Like, yeah, we can see all the old people who got voted out, and I always like it. But yeah, this will get used to this.
It makes a little bit of sense when you're watching it live and you're waiting week to week to week to week, and this is couple months timeline of watching it, so you can think back to the BBs or anything.
That person was on the show.
I will also say I think this is one of the shortest ones.
Oh, absolutely.
So if you are going to do it in this way, because they hit on them very, very quickly, and it's over before you know it.
What they do a lot of the time for a while is they a little sound clip from each person reflecting on their time, and that eats up some time. So
just say their name,
buckle up, Derek.
Have an overlay of them, and say like, oh yeah, I like that person. Blah blah blah.
For future reviews on this, let's just not touch on this whole tribute
unless there's
thing.
something hilarious that happens.
Fine,
which there will be.
But
I don't think it's gonna be like, and they go through the tribute next.
Yeah. This is so corny. And then
there's one really funny moment that'll happen in season 7.
Fine, I'll buckle up for season 7, or I'll just buckle up for the experience in general. But
just enjoy it.
But I mean, come on, they're walking. They have giant palm leaves from natives. This whole thing, walking across the coals, fine, whatever. Give me the challenge. Josh, do you remember what the challenge is?
What?
Right? Oh, you watched it. You watched with us.
Yeah, this is the finale. I watched this episode.
So Josh, tell us about. I just need to forget about this tribute.
So this challenge, I have things I like, things I don't like. I think that they need to have this style more often because what it is you have the final 3 people, and it's who can stand there and hold on to the pole the longest. No time limit, no like skinny balance thing. You don't need to have like any strain against you. It's pure stamina of stubbornness for this.
That's it.
I really, really like this because I think once you get to the final 3, it should be based on willpower. How badly do you want this? But I think that there needs to be something added so that it doesn't go on for 12 hours maybe, which I think happens later on, not this season obviously.
Yep.
It could have. This possibly could have gone on for 12 hours.
Sure.
And I think they do adjust it a little bit in later seasons to stand on a really, really, really skinny pole or something instead of just like a log, or you have to be on like your tiptoes the entire time or on one leg or something. Just anything to put a little more strain on you along with the willpower.
Sure.
Yeah, and I love endurance challenges as well. But we're going to have a moment in here, and Ryan, I'm glad you pointed it out, because at first I was kind of in contestation with you on the outcome, but Richard bows out of this challenge after like an hour.
I can't remember exactly how long it is, but Richard bows up pretty early.
And you said this to us, and Josh and I argued, but I've thought about it and I agree. You say if Rich does not bow out, he loses. 100%. I agree with you, but walk me through that.
This is the single best move of Richard's game and on all of season 1, because Richard throws this challenge, and that is how he wins this game. Because if Richard wins, he can take Kelly to the end. Guess what? Everybody thinks he's this evil bastard who turned on Rudy, stabbed him in the back. Rudy will never vote for him. Richard will probably now lose to Kelly. Now, he votes on Kelly, takes Rudy to the end. He's losing to Rudy, and it's not close. Everybody likes Rudy. People don't necessarily like Richard as much. So, Richard is in a no-win situation if he wins this challenge. So he's going to throw it, because Rudy's going to take him to the end, and he's still going to lose, but he's going to get to the end. Kelly, if she has any brain in her body, will take Richard to the end and not Rudy, because she'll lose to Rudy too. Kelly's best move is to take Richard to the end. This way, Richard doesn't betray Rudy. Richard gets to the end. Richard's got a pretty decent shot of beating her.
And, until I understood, because I explained why I didn't understand why Rudy is an obvious win here. So, I mean, I had to accept that perspective. But what really sold me on it is when we were watching the finale, and even throughout the season and then in the reunion show, Rudy's all about, when I give my word, it means something. If Richard breaks his word with Rudy, he will not get that jury vote.
Nope.
I have to agree. This is the move of the game. And I also think that this embodies the spirit of Survivor. What does it take to get to the end? There's almost never an easy route. You need to gamble at some point, and at this point Richard says, I need to gamble that Kelly wins this and takes me.
Yep.
So I originally did not agree with this. I've come back on that since, just thinking about it more. However, I still don't think he did it in a good way.
Okay.
So I think that the way he should have done it is he shouldn't have done it in a way that's very obvious that he's throwing it. He should have done something like what ended up happening with Rudy, and just, you slipped up, maybe when you tripped or something like that when you got off the log, and you're still very intentionally doing it and losing on purpose. But I think you could offend like Rudy and be like, you're gonna make me carry this alliance? Why would you throw it? Like, I don't like a guy who's gonna do that, yada yada yada. I still think that was a bad move.
Risky for sure.
Strategically and like from a positioning standpoint, yes, that's his only way to win. Maybe even wait until there's only 2 people. Depending on the way that you think it might lay out, wait until Rudy goes down and then go down. And maybe you just kind of toss up a Hail Mary that if Kelly goes down first, possibly by whatever means, then you have to win. Because then you have to take your chances and vote Rudy out.
Yeah.
Now talking through that, I think that would have been the better way. Wait for one person to go down, reassess the situation, and then decide to throw. Or if you think that it's your only chance, then win.
Maybe.
I think you're right. In an ideal scenario, there was a better way that Rich could have gone about throwing this challenge. But ultimately, the move is the move. He needed to throw it. That's the only way to win.
Yeah.
I think he recognized that. And it really just... that ties a bow on it. Richard's self-awareness and his strategic game, he was the only one doing it the whole game. And right down to the end, he's like, you know what? I know that I don't win if I win.
Yep.
In order to win, I have to lose. Go, Rich, on this one. That was solid. I can't nitpick with it too much. So
Kelly ends up winning this immunity, and she has to make a decision: vote out Rudy or Richard. Easy call. Vote out Rudy.
Yeah. Do you think she even debated this?
No, I don't think so. No. I think this is the easiest decision ever.
So, just as a fun hypothetical, fast forward 10 years, does she make the same call?
No.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
No.
If you're in season 10, I guess I can only speak from 27 and on. If you're anything that I've seen,
You vote out Richard, take Rudy.
yeah, and you say, Rudy, yeah, he's a great guy. We all like him. He didn't play.
Yeah, he just kind of sat there.
Like, he didn't make anyone mad. He didn't rock any boats. He didn't take any chances. What's on his Survivor resume?
Yeah.
Being a good guy, that doesn't win Survivor.
I would agree.
It can.
It can.
Well,
it has.
Not against a Kelly Wigglesworth who has 4 immunity challenge
Sure.
wins, and not against a Richard Hatch who was clearly the risk taker engineer for the whole season.
Richard Hatch is the biggest threat nowadays, but at the time it was Rudy. So that's what's interesting about the dynamic of Survivor.
Yeah, the change.
So for best and worst player of the episode, I'm not going to give out a worst player of the episode because if the players play as well as they possibly could have in an episode, I'm not going to give out a worst player of the episode. And the reverse is true. If everybody plays like the worst they can do, I'm not going to give out a best player either. So for best player, it's got to be Richard because that throwing the final challenge is such a brilliant move and it's going to win him the game. But Kelly did the best she could possibly do, but she's already lost the game. But this is a great episode for her. But I won't give her a worst player, but I will give Richard the best player.
I don't think there's an argument.
So with that, we're down to the final 2, Kelly Wigglesworth and Richard Hatch. And we're going to go to our first ever final tribal council.
Yeah, and the two of them, they have 2 distinct hypotheses on who should win this game. Kelly wants to be judged on the type of person she is. Richard wants to be judged on the type of game he's played.
And time will tell which of these is more well-respected.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like you said, a good person can win the game, and that certainly will happen. I can think of at least one. But in general, I mean, everyone, every season talks about Survivor resumes now, and Richard has the resume.
Yep. But that isn't super relevant yet.
Nope.
So we'll go over a couple of the questions. We're not going to go through all of them because some of them just don't matter.
Yeah.
But the first one I want to talk about is Jenna asked them, who would you put in the final 2? It can't be you guys. You got to pick 2 other people to put in the finale. Who is it? And Richard chooses Rudy and Greg, which is an amazing answer. Of course, you got to say Rudy. And then say Greg, because, yeah, he was like the smart one. He was the threat. This is a great answer by Richard.
And just in case Greg is going to not vote for you, this is more just like you respect me, I respect you.
A little buttering up.
Well, yeah, and the way he answers it, he says, I didn't get to know Greg very well, but I didn't get to know him because I didn't want him to be around that long. Yeah. I voted him out. Greg ultimately votes for Richard. Mm-hmm. Now, we'll get to that.
We'll get to Greg.
But this was an excellent answer by Richard. I am in full agreement with Ryan.
On the flip side, Kelly answers this the worst she can possibly do.
Sonia and Gretchen. Literally the first person voted out. I doubt that Pagong even remember anything about Sonia. And then Gretchen, okay, at best you might get someone like Colleen to think, yeah, you know what, I can see Gretchen having won this game. Yeah.
But guess what? Neither of them are on the jury, so who cares? Don't butter them up. Butter people up who are on the jury. Say Jenna and Colleen or something.
You could toss out two names. It doesn't matter.
Pick 2. Make two that make sense and go with that.
Or if you're looking at jury management, pick the 2 votes that you think that you can win from the rich side. There are a million ways to do this, and you did it wrong.
Yeah, obviously ignore Rudy and Sue. Those are lost causes.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe say Greg. I think Greg is a good choice. Say Greg and say, I don't know, Jenna or something. I don't know. Take your pick of Pagong.
Anything other than what she did. You guys, if you could take, and I'll include Kelly Wigglesworth and Richard Hatch, but if you could put any 2 in the final 2, and think about it in a vacuum in this season, not for what was great for Survivor long term, in that season.
The 2 best players of this season.
Yeah, we don't have to spend a ton of time on it. Just, what are your names? What do you think?
Richard and Greg.
I agree. I don't think it's close.
Yeah. I think Sue's third, though. I'll put Sue as the 3rd best player. But I'll say Richard and Greg.
And I'm thinking, Richard and Greg, but Richard and Jervis, I think, would be interesting, too.
Jervis is good, too.
Like, put that social game to test.
I'll put Jervis at 4.
I think with Jervis, you get all the positives of, like, the Kelly side without the negatives.
Yes. That's exactly why I went with that. With that, we get, we're not gonna repeat what he said, but...
Frickin' Sean.
Sean... You didn't play a great game, and then you have to go and just put cherry on top.
Yeah, says some comments, and they're not mean-spirited, but they're about Richard, and, Richard thought they were funny, but this is not aged well. This was in 2000, and this still wasn't great, but nowadays this is really bad to watch.
And you can defend him a little bit just because he's saying, like, these were Rich's words. Like, I agree with Richard, blah, blah, blah. He then says it later again, and it
4
doesn't
times.
sit as well.
Yeah, if you don't know, he says FAG.
Sean was on Survivor to try and become America's sweetheart.
Yeah.
You are not going to win over any of America's sweetheart. I know it's 2000. I know it's a different time. But if you're going to be in that industry, you need to step on as few toes as possible. Yeah. And those were really stupid comments.
Yeah, very bad comments.
There's no positive.
There's no... Yeah, you know what? That's what it is. It's risk-reward. At best, you get a chuckle. At worst, this ages exactly how everybody thought it would.
Great. You got a chuckle out of Richard. You're not winning Richard's vote here. You're casting the vote. It's wonderful. I don't know what he was thinking. It's Sean.
And they say that Sean's a smart guy, and I believe it.
He's a doctor.
This was a bad move.
He's a book smart guy.
Yeah.
But this next one, I want to spend maybe a little more time than just picking names for the end. But Colleen asks, what 3 traits got them to the end, or what 3 traits do you need in order to get to the end? And Richard says self-awareness, observation, and ethics. And
Colleen kind of tries him out, calls him out for his observation. You didn't observe us that well because you did so badly in that challenge.
And he explains his position, and we'll obviously get into that here. But Kelly says faith, a strong will, and likability. And we could really dive into what those 3 meant. But I'm more interested in what you guys think. If three traits, what do you think?
I'll go with empathy, strong will, and self-awareness. So 1 from each of them, and then throw in some empathy.
And I think one of them was self-awareness, adaptability, and then I like your other one with empathy. Mm-hmm. I don't want to completely take what you just said, but I'll toss in adaptability into there.
Sure. Adaptability is a good one as well.
I think Richard hits the nail on the head with self-awareness, because if you don't have it, you're out early.
Yep.
This is like being strong-willed, but being determined. You're out there for 39 days, and if you put on a facade or if you're playing a game, got to keep it going with that determination. And then, I like empathy. I do, because if you can't gauge how other people are feeling, you aren't able to get through those human moments in Survivor, which get people out just as often as strategic ones.
If you can understand why people are feeling the way they're feeling, how and what their perspective is, A, you can form social bonds with that. B, you can use that to your advantage. And empathy does not mean the same thing as sympathy. You can empathize with people without, saying, oh, I'm going to bend to your will. Oh, I understand where you're coming from. I'm still going to vote you out, but I understand where you're coming from. That's the brilliance of empathy. But back to Richard and Kelly, I point out something interesting here. Richard, I think, answers this question better, for me at least. But this is what Kelly wins Colleen's vote here. Colleen came into this going to vote for Richard, which is surprising. But Kelly and her strong will comment wins over Colleen. Clearly she had a better read on Colleen than I did.
Yeah.
Well, and that's actually really surprising, because I think Richard answered this very, very, very well.
Yes. Because
he kind of flipped it. And this is what I was kind of going to mention earlier in terms of the challenge that Kelly won. So Colleen even made a comment oh, funny that you'd say observation.
Yep.
And then he explains that it's more like a strategic observation, like knowing what other people are thinking and knowing who's talking to who and what they're talking about. And it kind of goes back to what matters.
Mm-hmm.
And basically he's saying like the kind of observation that Kelly's doing, while it's good, it doesn't matter. It matters a little bit, but the observation that I'm doing is even better and more important.
Yes.
And it even though it might not be reflected in a single individual immunity challenge where I can answer things about you, that doesn't mean that you played a better game.
Sure.
So that one thing shouldn't change your vote. You see this later on in further seasons, and it's an argument that's actually made at future tribal councils. Yeah, just because you know these people, like the names of these people's family members, doesn't mean that you played a good game.
Yeah. So moving on to Greg, he asked them both to pick a number between 1 and 10. Now, later on, Greg says that in interviews, Greg says, yeah, I was going to vote for Rich the whole time. And he was just kind of making fun of like how serious this tribal council was.
Totally a Greg move.
Totally a Greg move. Totally see it. But let's say he was. Let's go through the logistics of picking a number between 1 and 10, because this is not the only time this will happen on this show. I can think of 3 instances, including this one, where they'll have to pick a number. Richard gets asked first. 5 or 6, either one. Pick one. Right? That's the move. Let's say I pick 5. Kelly should pick 6.
Correct.
Yep. Okay. You pick 6. Kelly should pick 5.
Those are the only 2 options here.
Richard picks 7. Not great.
No.
Kelly!
Even worse!
Makes it worse. Kelly should pick 6 here. She just improved her odds. She picks 3. Now, according to Greg, the number was 9. So Richard wins this.
Who knows what the actual number was? It could have been.
There could have never been a number.
Yeah, and he just made it up before the reunion show.
But based on odds, Richard should have picked 6 or 5, and then Kelly should have picked the other one.
Yeah,
and neither of them do it here.
For being a strategic thinker, he really miffed on this one.
Yeah, the only thing I can think is maybe Richard was like, Greg.
Classic
7.
Greg.
Whatever.
And so take that even a step further, Richard should have just been like 10.
Yeah.
Pick the worst odds.
Yeah, worst odds. So Sue then gets up and gives the rat and the snake speech, which is one of the greatest moments in Survivor history. I think to this day, the best jury speech ever given.
I still go back and forth on there being a lot of parts in there that were great, and then a part in particular that was cringeworthy when she's talking about, if I were to see you dead and dying on the road, I wouldn't give you a drink of water. I'd let the vultures take you.
I think it's a little extreme, and it's definitely obviously not something that would actually like happen, but at the same time, I think it was a very real and genuine speech,
yes.
Which is why I think it was so good, because it had fantastic substance and content to it, but you could tell that it was real.
And I also think Sue knows she's on a TV show. She's not an idiot. So I think she's going for the TV moment, which is kind of surprising because that's usually not the type who's going to go for the TV moment, but I think she was.
Well, and we have to remember she was playing dumb redneck. This is her last chance to show that she has this eloquent side. She can come up with this speech.
Yep.
And she can deliver it.
But all in all, Richard, I think, owns his game more than Kelly does. I think that's the key here.
Yeah. This is why this is must-watch Survivor, because this perfectly embodies what we're going to see time and time again and what makes Survivor so compelling. Who played the better game? Who played the more ethical game? Who treated it as a game? I mean, really, this couldn't have ended any more perfectly in terms of who should win. You know, I know we just talked about, who else would you have in your final 2, but I do think that Richard and Kelly were the right 2 to have longevity in this show, and Richard winning is the right one for Survivor. You guys have talked about this quite a bit.
Yeah, Richard wins 4-3. I think he was the right choice. Because let's break it down. There's the physical, social, and strategic sides of the game, right?
Yeah.
Richard is clearly the better strategic player. Kelly is clearly better the physical player. So that brings us to social game. And I think that shows that is relevant here because the people all voted for who they like more. Sean, Sue, and Rudy kind of pissed at Kelly. They're going to vote for Rich. Greg liked Rich a lot. And then 3 Pagong people, besides Greg, got along with Kelly more. So I think this really did come down to social game. Strategy and physical stuff aside, social game I think is what won the day.
And I think it helps the type of people that you were playing with. If you're looking at just like a bunch of like Pagong type people most of the jury, you're going to have them voting for Kelly more than Rich. But you had people that were in your alliance that were able to vote for you. So that way Rich was able to kind of pull ahead. And because if you're looking at like social, I feel like, I mean, we've said it, Kelly played a better social game.
I don't know that she did. I think she did with some people, and I think Richard did with some people, and in fact, more people.
Well, and I think you even said it. It comes down to the fact, I think, that Richard owns his game. Because Kelly was trying to come across as this self-righteous, I played as ethically as I could, and you know what? For some people, that worked. That got her 3 votes. Mm-hmm. But Richard says, I know what I had to do to get here, and I want everyone to respect that I did what I needed to get here.
From the beginning.
From the beginning.
Okay. Before we go into the reunion show, we didn't do this, but we'll talk about Rudy, Kelly, and Richard, because we're going to see all 3 of these people back. You guys excited for that? You want to see these 3 people back? 'Cause I do.
I'm iffy on Rudy.
I don't
because
know.
I don't
what?
And because I don't think he would ever have a chance at winning. I don't think he'll ever win, and I don't think he'll ever do better than how he finished. And he was very likable. Everyone loved him. He had great older generational comments. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's no way that Rudy can get better than this. Mm-hmm. No, it could be fun to have him on again. The others, totally would love to have him back.
For me, I think anyone on season 1 that I like, I'd be happy to see them back. Because nobody knew what this game was except Richard. And frankly, looking at it from New School Survivor perspective, nobody but Richard had a chance. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know realistically that's not true. But, I mean, you said it was Rudy, it was Richard, it was Sue, it was Kelly, it was Jervis.
And
Jenna. I want to see all of them back. I want to see Greg back. Mm-hmm. I want to see Gretchen back. I'd love to see Sonia back. I mean, I know she's obviously a bit old to do that now, but there are a lot of people that I'd love to see back play again.
I would take literally anybody from this cast, and I'd like to see him play. Even BB, because BB went on record after watching the whole show. Once he realized what kind of game it was, the type Richard played, he says he thinks he would like that more. And so he kind of wishes he didn't quit and it played more like that. So moving on to the reunion show, which we'll just go over really quickly. We won't even mention most of it. But most of the reunion shows are not worth watching. Most of them aren't very good. This one, I think, is a good one.
Absolutely.
I would agree.
And it's hosted by Bryant Gumbel. He's going to host the first 3. He gets better and better because by the season 3, he doesn't give it an F about any of this, and it's very funny. I like Bryant Gumbel as a host. He's fun.
But like Ryan said, a lot of these reunion shows aren't worth watching. A couple of reasons that this one is worth watching. They really dig into the meat of what was going on the island. I mean, they were asking tough questions, and of course they asked about like romance, where Greg and Colleen confirmed like nothing happened. We're just putting on a show. But they talked to Richard a lot about the decisions he made. They talked to Rudy about how he evolved as a person and being more accepting of homosexuals. I mean, they really jump into it. And then they take live audience polls or live viewership polls. Like,
yep.
They really go all out in this reunion show with what they had at their disposal in the year 2000.
They're not plugging any of their other shows. They're not talking to past contestants or random kids that nobody cares about.
Yeah.
And this is the one of the things I think Survivor fails at, is this should be the format of the reunion show. And I feel like we can mostly agree on that. Even if you don't go like this in depth with it, which I think they should, taking elements like the live polls. I love the live polls. Completely forgot about it since the first time I watched it. Putting that into Modern Survivor, I think that would be fantastic to have.
Yep.
I do get the need and the reasoning, if you're looking from just like a business perspective. The Survivor audience isn't necessarily growing.
No.
It's more just plateaued.
Yes.
So you're going to get these people who are going to watch no matter what. If they're watching the finale, they're most likely going to watch the reunion show. You're not going to get any more people to watch the reunion show. So you might as well plug your other shows, plug whatever else you can in this short amount of time, put out some commercials. I get it, CBS, whatever.
Don't like it, though.
I don't like it. It should totally have this type of format because I think it's just good content, but I get why they do it.
Best player of the season, Richard Hatch.
Richard Hatch.
I don't know who else you could pick.
Easy. Moving on.
I think we made a pretty good case throughout all the other points that we made.
Worst player of the season is Sean.
Man, I was hoping you were going to pick someone else because I was going to make a point for Sean.
No, it's got to be Sean.
Yeah, it's a terrible player.
He pissed everybody off with his social game. He had a negligible strategic game. He didn't win any challenges besides like one reward. So
I wouldn't even say negligible. It was a counterproductive strategy.
Sure. That's even better than what I said.
It worked against him.
Yep. He's not a complete zero, but he's close.
Yeah, and it's hard when you're giving out a worst player of the season. We need to be thinking about what happened pre-merge and post-merge, because if somebody really imploded pre-merge, I mean, we're not going to get to see them play poorly after that.
Sure.
So we need to gauge that into it. I don't think that happens this season. I think Sean is the worst player who sticks around for a long time. Typically, this is going to end up being a GOAT. If Sean gets to the end, he's a GOAT. He's the worst player of the season.
Okay. And then Jeff Watch. Derek.
I've only, again, seen Modern Survivor. Jeff Probst puts himself on a bit of a pedestal above all of the contestants. That's the Jeff that I know. I don't know the Jeff who's going to ask are you in an alliance? I don't know the Jeff who is going to sit down next to the contestants and take his shoes and socks off and dip his feet in the water and kick his feet like minnows and
drink a beer with them.
And drink a beer with them and jump into the water and cut the logs off of the balance beam. Jeff does not do this.
Nope.
In this season, we see him saying stuff like, I don't want you to put me in the position of needing to make a judgment call. Yeah, right. Fast forward 15 years, there's nothing Jeff would love more than needing to make a judgment call because somebody messed up. He lives for that. This Jeff is like your friendly neighborhood Jeff. I'm just one of the contestants. Just pretend like I'm 17th Castaway here. And I'm excited to see this evolution of Jeff, because he didn't know what he was doing. And again, I think Richard understood this game much better than Jeff did.
I still don't think Jeff understands the game.
And while it's fun to see that, and it lasts a few seasons,
Sure.
But while it's fun to kind of see him in that light, I do think he's in a better position now. I do think that's the role you need to take as a host.
Absolutely.
To just say, like, yes, this is my game. You guys are just contestants on my game.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's so important to talk about this here, because, there are a lot of things from this old style Survivor, and this is a good segue into, we've all seen Modern Survivor. All of us have. What do you like better from this? What do you like better from this old season? I've got a couple that I can start out with right here. I love the music. I mean, you can pull out all of like the 2000s Bobby Rocky stuff. I mean, like that's great callback stuff, but like the mystical music that they play during the tribal council during the votes and some of the other different tribal chants. I love the music.
The challenges are less generic. I think they're a little more like theme focused, which is interesting. The less, I want to say, dumb twists by production, as in none. Yeah,
and I mean, I will go ahead and agree to a certain extent. Obviously, some twists are good, but, you can't Harvey Dent this.
I'm not a purist by any means, but, there's a good twist and there's bad twists, and I don't know if production knows the difference sometimes.
And yeah, again, production, you've got 38 seasons. You need to be more thoughtful about what you're throwing against the wall, I think. But again, not in production. I don't know what metrics they see. So
I like some of the more unique things, like Jeff sitting down at a challenge just to talk out stuff, being more just like one-on-one. I thought that was super cool.
Weather report? Derek, anything to add?
All right, really quickly, running through the weather report. We had rain on days 6, 9, 18, 19, 20, 21, 31, 32, 36, and 38. After every single rainstorm, you had Castaway saying, morale is down. I'm groggy. The bugs came out. They're living in my cuts, in my sores, in my bruises. We're miserable. This is going to scar. I missed this part of Survivor too, but yeah, here's a weather report. We had rain on
10 days.
That is no small amount. That's pretty miserable.
Yep, that's so okay. So 10 out of 39. That's what we'll keep track of that.
Yeah. So now I know we mentioned it at the beginning of the episode, but I think we're all in agreement. This is must-watch Survivor.
Absolutely,
no question.
So what we're going to be doing in the future, obviously we can't do it yet, but we're going to be doing season rankings. This is obviously the best season of Survivor so far. It's also the worst season of Survivor so far.
That's a bold decision.
Yeah, it was hot take.
Hot take.
1 out of 1.
So this is where we would do it, but we don't have it. That is everything. That is season 1 of Survivor.
Yeah, and keeping in mind, everyone, because we had so many firsts, this season, by very nature of the beast, is going to be longer because we have so many firsts. We're going to try and keep it shorter, but hopefully we can add a little bit of our perspective in here as well, and that's been added content for you as well. with that, that's been Armchair Survivor Season 1, Borneo. Richard Hatch, congratulations in retrospect here. Do you guys have anything to add?
Nope.
Good.
All right, well then, Ryan, why don't you give us just a quick sneak peek on what we should be expecting for Season 2?
Yeah, moving on to Season 2, the Australian Outback, which is definitely one of physically the toughest seasons of Survivor, so that'll be interesting. We also have half of the Season 2 cast are returning players. Half. 8 out of 16. That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a lot to chew on here because we're going to be seeing half of these players again.
Yeah, so even if you don't have a lot of the first like you do in Borneo, you still have a lot more to think about.
Yeah, because all these players watched Season 1. They should have learned from what Richard and the others did.
And I'm excited because this is a season that both Ryan and I have watched. I watched it basically right after I watched Borneo about 5-6 years ago. But Derek has not seen this and does not know the outcome.
I literally know one contestant. I know that Jeff Varner is on this season. That is all I know.
And the only reason you know that is because you've seen him in a different season.
Yes, exactly. So I'm excited, ready and rearing to go. Let's jump on it.
In the meantime, I got nothing else for you. So head back to camp.
Head back to your lives.
See you next time.
Bye.